Welcome to Nara's Method podcast. In today's episode, we will be discussing clarity with Samir Geepee. Welcome, Samir.
Welcome,
I'm
Nara.
very happy to have you. And give us introduction about yourself. Tell us more about what you do and how did you come up with all this genius stuff.
Hi, thank you for having me over here. And what do I do? I'm a conversationalist, actually. I love having conversations, and I love having conversations at all levels. I've always been passionate about conversations. I never realized how much I love conversations until I discovered the world of coaching, which was in 2016. Until then, I had 6, 7 different career paths, trying out different things, not knowing what I want to do. I had no clarity. But when clarity hit, it hit so hard that I knew there's nothing else I want to do in life after that.
So, clarity. Tell us, what is it all about?
Clarity is about having a very clear idea with no distractions, with no filters, with authenticity that this is exactly what you want to do. And there are so many things that come into play before you arrive at that. There's so many elements of your belief systems, your value systems, your strengths, and all of these things, when they come together and you align with all of them, then you have clarity. And it's like a filter that sometimes we hold because of other people's judgments and other people's views of the world that has been imposed on us that we carry on. It's like, we take a backpack and put so many other people's expectations on our back, and then we walk. And it's heavy, it's difficult. You're not able to move forward. Imagine you leave that down and then you start walking.
So, you want to tell me it helps you to get rid of all of that?
It's an opportunity that I invite people into to put the backpack on the floor and walk light.
For time being or forever?
The choice is each one's.
Is it like conditional thing? Because I've done some few exercises in the coaching that I know you can put something away, but in a place where it's accessible when you cannot really part with it. Is it something similar to that?
So let's take the metaphor of going up a mountain.
Yeah.
And if you're going up a mountain and you need energy bars, you leave it in the bag. Stones, you wouldn't. So you'll carry in your backpack whatever serves you
Yeah.
rather than whatever drains you. So if there are things that other people are having for you, which is helping you in your journey, you'll keep them.
Who would you say needs it? I can see that everyone would need it, but
No.
who would be people that would be ideal to come to this? It's you developed a game, right? It's a game as well.
Yeah.
And so tell us more about the game and tell us who would be the people that would need to come and play it.
So look at anyone who's making decisions. How many decisions do you make in a day?
Oh, I don't know, thousands
Thousands
maybe
of
more.
decisions, right? But some decisions, let's put a price to it. There are some decisions which are just worth, let's say, 5 dirhams, some which are 50, some which are 5,000, some which have a value of maybe 5 million in our lives.
Yeah.
Big decisions, small decisions. And when you're making those big decisions, everybody makes decisions. But when you're making those very big decisions, for example, if it's a student who is thinking what to study, if it's a mother who is thinking how to help my child, or how to choose a career, or how to move out of my present condition to a more empowering one. Anyone who's having a bag that is very heavy, I would go back to that. Perhaps they are reluctant to put it down. And it's an invitation to them. If you're having a very heavy backpack on your back, meaning something that is weighing you down, that is not allowing you to move forward in authenticity, something that is stopping you from being yourself, feeling free, feeling lively, feeling wholesome, then there is things that needs to be unpacked. And the game just allows you to unpack your backpack.
That's a good one. I think it would be then, from what you're saying, it would be for anyone who is going through life-changing phase, and which any phase can be that, but then they have life-changing decision in front of them. That would clear it all out for them.
So I'm not saying it will.
Okay.
It's entirely up to them. It's entirely up to how they play the game. I'm just a facilitator in the whole process. So I open doors, and it's for them to see whether they want to walk through it or not.
So it's up to us. What we, as I think in any coaching environment, I think people put a lot of stress on coaches and on psychologists, on psychotherapists, on what's going to happen to them after the after the session, and they feel like everything's going to change. But if you are not willing to change anything in you, nothing's going to help you.
Yeah.
It's our decision. But if somebody came open, basically, to do this life-changing decision, that would clarify the decision.
Yeah.
You've also mentioned that you are doing it for corporates.
Yeah.
How does that help for corporate? A team? Like, is it a team? Is it like 2 people? Is it business partners? What is the scenarios that you usually have?
So business leaders are always making decisions as well, constantly making decisions. Where are these decisions coming from? Usually it comes from their experience, it comes from their own expectations, it comes from other people's expectations of how they perform and deliver. Probably it is a boss, probably it is a board of directors. Somebody is having an expectation on things on them, and they have to deliver on those. But in the process of doing that, are they missing out, seeing certain other opportunities? Are they just seeing 3 doors instead of 10? Right? So the game opens up possibilities of seeing more doors, and then they might walk through still those 3 doors that they saw initially, but at this point of time what happens is they have more doors to see and decide, this is what I want to go through and this is not what I want to go through. And when you do it for an organization, when you do it for teams, then what happens is there is alignment that is brought in, because everyone starts looking at all those doors together. Usually in organizations, what happens is each one is looking at doors separately, individually, as in silos. They look at the door, they see what's for their department, what is for their role. They don't see it from an organization perspective. But when you sit together and you play the game with one playing focus, as I call it, which is with one agenda to decide which door to walk through, for example, then every effort, every energy goes in that direction. The same is the case when 2 parents want the best for their own child. So how husband and wife would sit and have a playing focus, which is very focused on what are the doors that is open in front of them, or what are the doors that they can possibly open for their child. Sometimes they see only 2 doors and 3 doors and 5 doors. And this is also sometimes when the child is going through challenges and difficulties, especially if it's a special needs, if it is something that is limiting them because of their finances. There are so many conditions which limits our clarity. The game allows us to be free of all of those for an hour. And in that 1 hour, you go exploring.
That's an interesting one, because that made me think about it in a different way, right? As parents, so I have 2 kids, and as parents, you don't know how you're gonna parent with your partner till you have kids. Like, we all know how to be great parents till we actually have kids, till we are parents.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is, and a lot of times you're not aligned with your partner, even though you think that you had all the conversations, you had all the discussions on how things are gonna go and how you're gonna decide on school, how you're gonna decide on upbringing. But then once the child comes in, then you don't know what to do, because you both are triggered on different, like on different things, and you don't even know about it because you never had to be a parent. So I find it a very interesting, perspective to actually use it for parents. And,
So can I
as
ask you a
well.
question over there?
Yeah.
You said you have all the conversations, you go through all the discussions with the person, and still you don't have alignment sometimes.
Yes. Yeah.
Why is that? What's missing?
Because we're not looking from the same point of view. It's the each one's experience, right? Each one's background. The way we were parented was different. And then I also look at it from, being in UAE, it's a lot of mixed marriages. It's a lot of mixed nationality marriages, which also adds up to the, not misunderstanding, but it adds up to the how different cultures work. And then it's two cultures, two different nationalities, and then two different people that are coming from totally different backgrounds. They're trying to raise one common, they have a project, right? One common project where there are so many things around this project that are also triggering you because it's emotional project. It's not just, a work project. It's an actual like human being that you're raising together. So I think it's just differences in the backgrounds, and we do not see eye to eye a lot of times with the person because we just don't have the experience that the other person has.
But there are so many things that brought you together, and you see eye to eye on so many other things before the child came in.
Do they? That sometimes I question like a lot of like.
Then how is it that they two came together and decided to be in a mixed marriage, in the sense, being from different cultures, having different aspirations?
There must be something common. Like there must be something common. So do you work on that, like to make the commonalities? Because we had these discussions like many times, right? On how to try to find something in common, because it was there.
And
before
did you discover anything?
For us, yes.
What was it?
Well, there's so many things we have in common. Like we're very similar in many things, and the things we're different in don't really matter. But I found it much more challenging in the beginning of when the baby was just born, and then you both are lost. You don't know what to do. And as a mother, for me, I was going through like postnatal depression, and I don't mind talking about it because it's like, so I feel like a lot of people are going through it, but we don't know about it.
Yeah.
With my first kid, I definitely didn't know about it. I was going through it, but I felt like that's what happens to everyone. Like, why am I, it's fine. It's just, I'm just tired, but it wasn't just tiredness. And same with the second one, but second one was quite recent, right? It was like almost less than 2 years ago. And what was missing, I don't know if it was missing. It was just a lot of expectations that we had towards the baby, which we didn't have towards, I don't know, each other. Because it's not about what you like in a person. It's like, what do you want your kid to have as a human being? Like, what is the best for the child? And that's the common goal at that point. What is the best for the child? But two parties know the best for the child from two other people, like two different people, is different. It's not the same.
So knowing what you know now, would you have done anything differently to keep the liveliness in the marriage more exciting?
Well, I wouldn't say there was no, I think it was, I know from my point of view, I'm sure my husband would have totally different point of view on that. But I was
and that's okay, right?
And that's okay, that's all right. Like I don't mind. We all have our own realities.
Yes.
I was in a survival mode, and I accepted that, and I knew that.
And did you share that?
I was sharing it. No, I wasn't. I don't think I was sharing it in the beginning. That's the thing. I was in survival mode, and when you're in survival mode, all you care about is you.
Yeah.
And you become really selfish. So whenever the other person shares with you that they are suffering or they're struggling with something, you do not accept that. Because right now you don't have capacity to accept that. And I think we had this discussion after some time, and I think that's when we actually like understood what's happening, and we like kind of like cleared out the the air there. But because the other person was also struggling, but he could not share it with me because I thought I'm suffering more. Because as a woman, and I think a lot of women can relate to that, because I was pregnant and then I had a baby. I had the, I had
you were
the
just
delivery.
Sitting back and chilling.
He wasn't, but he wasn't doing that. But still, from if you compare all the physical changes and all the emotional changes that women go through, and then a man comes and and like, oh, I'm struggling too. You're like, excuse me, like, no, it's nothing that you cannot put it on a scale. But which also, as a coach, I know that it's every single person has different capacity. So we cannot really say that I am suffering more than you, because that's not true. Maybe that person only can suffer this much.
Yeah.
And that's his maximum and his limit or her limit. And I am at my limit as well, but that doesn't mean that somebody's pain is more or less. So you're right. It's probably the conversation and coming from an open place rather than from judgmental place. is, I think, the thing that makes the whole difference.
And you think you have figured all out, and then
Absolutely not.
and then when you have your third child, you're like a whole new
Well,
box of Pandora opens up. I mean, not for you, but in general,
yeah.
you
I
think
don't
that you've
think.
sorted things, new things will come up, new ways. I think the thing that really keeps people together and is the awareness of the values that brought them together, and to holding those values constantly in place, in check, and uh, having the conversations from the space of values. And when we have the conversation from the space of values, then staying together, how important it is and how you got to navigate around that whole conversation.
It, how would you do that from in terms of like as a couple, right? We know our values, but rarely we even know our own values.
So, do you know your values? What are your top values? What are your top 3 values?
Yeah, I do, but I do just because I've done the exercise,
what is it?
like many times. It's gonna be so random.
Yeah.
But it's stability.
Okay.
It's fun.
Yeah.
That's the weird one for me.
Why is it weird?
Because I never thought that it could be a value, or it's something that's so important to me that I cannot basically operate if it's not there.
Yeah.
So it's stability, fun, and gosh, I forgot the other one. I've done it so many times. Fun, stability, and independence. That's
right.
it.
Okay.
The independence. And I know where it's coming from. Everything except fun. I have no idea where it's coming from. And for me, that was a big surprise when I figured it out. And because I felt like fun could not be something that's so important to a person that it's a deal breaker if it's not there.
So, do you see now when you had your child, what was really happening for you?
Oh, it was, none of it was there.
So, the fun was completely extinguished. And you are living a life where you're feeling. So, it is just about how do you bring fun into even that situation? What could be fun if your partner knew that, and if you had communicated this earlier on? And this is a great important value for me, and I am not able to maybe express what fun is for me right now, but if you're willing to go out and explore for me different things that would create fun for me, not fun for you but fun for me, then what happens is you might have avoided a few certain situations, right? And communicating that and understanding what the other person's values are as well, and being in congruence with that, and sharing what that other person needs. When you're filling his tank and he's filling your tank, then you don't feel you're running on a dry tank.
Yeah. That's quite powerful. I think that's so important for people to. I think that's important to know beforehand.
Yes.
And I always ask, even parenting coaches, what would you advise people before they actually had kids together? What would you advise for people to do? How do you prepare for that? I think that's a great way of preparing for...
Before even marrying,
Before marrying, even. Yeah. Because we often don't... And it's not about not marrying the person if your values are not aligned, because nobody's values can align like...
So aligned does not mean...
They cannot be the same all the time.
It doesn't have to be the same. Yeah. It's not about it being the same. It's about it realizing, like, for example, you have a petrol car and I have a diesel car. And I have not a diesel car, I have diesel.
Yeah.
I can't fill diesel into your petrol car. Meaning I can't fill your tank.
Yeah.
If I'm not able to fill your tank, it's not compatible. Right? So if your value is fun and your partner is able to, fill your tank with fun, not whether he has fun or not is a completely different topic.
Yeah. Because it's a giving moment at that point of time. Yes. It's not the receiving part of it.
Yeah. So, and that's what happens at the beginning of a relationship, I feel. You're always exploring ways of giving the other person. You're about giving. And then once marriage happens, it's about taking. Yes. And it's like, I gave all of mine to you, now you have to give me back, and it's about receiving. And when someone goes through motherhood, I believe it's a part of their phase where they're already giving something to something in the body, which is a whole lot of giving, and they want to receive at that point of time. And if their partner is able to acknowledge, understand, and be in that space to meet that need, I think the relationship will go far, far, far ahead. Yeah. So values is one. Also, have you heard of the 5 love language
Yeah,
test, which
yeah.
is also a very powerful tool actually, which is around the concept of values, I feel, but at the same time, values is a lot more deeper.
So for me, like there's a bit of confusion. I've done the test many times, and I'll ask my husband to do the test. But for me, I find it's different at times. It's not the same all the time. And actually, I would love all 5 to be present, to be like we're talking about, like
Yeah.
100% happy. I would like all 5 of them to be, because all of them are equally important
Yeah.
to me. But so I have like a very small percentage like between them. It's almost like, 35% on each. So I find it a little bit confusing, and for me personally, that it's if all 5 is present, where we're hitting the right spot.
So if you were to change the word confusing and use another word, which was more
Positive.
what would you choose? Same situation, same scenario. You have all of these almost the same.
Unclear? No? Still again, right? The same thing.
A more positive word, what would you choose?
Yeah, is that the clarity and confusion? Are we are we back at it?
So now you have clarity
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
this is who I am. This is how I operate.
So it gives you, yeah. But then I think when we know ourselves, it's very easy to deliver the message to the other person as well. We don't need to expect the other person to sit there and know our values.
Why was it confusing for you?
The 5 languages.
Yeah, the 5
Five love-
languages, when it was all almost the same for you, why was it confusing for you?
Because I feel like it should be, and I was reading from a variety of sources, like one should be more than the other. And it's not for me. I genuinely think that all 5 of them are so important for any, like a good relationship. I think they all have a place to be. And I think me as a person, I try to give all 5. Because that's what I feel like I need. So that's why I was confused with, okay, so which one is the most important one? Because none of them are more important than the other in my eyes.
So what you said over there can be a huge tool for people who are listening over here on the podcast to feel less stressed in life. The moment they remove this phrase, I should be, I need to have, I must be, when you remove all these imposed, and it's an internal reflection of who we are, how we are operating, right? These words that we use. And the moment we just free ourselves of expectations, we free ourselves of stress, and we can just be. We can just be who we are in this moment without having a sense of I have to be someone, I should be someone, I need to do this, I need to be in a certain way.
That's the difficult one for me. I think actually the way I get motivated to do anything, if it's something that I must do, then I will do it. And that's the majority of things. All the things I do in life, I recognize it, and I'm trying to change it into, I just want to do it, so I'm gonna do it. I don't have to tell myself that I need to go out to have fun. It's like a ridiculous way of putting it, but lots of people operate this way. So for me, needs and must and should are a very important way of the way I get motivated about stuff. So when I put it as this is something that I have to do, I do it. If I don't have to do it, then I can be like, okay, maybe I don't want it enough. But in reality of things, I actually want it enough. I just get lazy, or I just prioritize something else that is on the list, which is in a must list.
Mm-hmm.
While if it's something that I want to do, it's going to go on the bottom of the list, because there are much more important things to do. So whenever I want anything to get done, which is I want something to get done and I want to do it, I always put it in a list of musts, because that's the way for me to achieve it. Because if it's not in my list, then I'm not going to do it. If I didn't prioritize it, I'm not going to do it. I'll be like, oh, I would rather do this for that one or this for this one. And then I'll, work a little bit more, do something for kids. And then me as a person, just disappears. And I don't do the stuff that I want to do because it was just not part of the important things. So for me, that's one way of doing things that I want to do. I just put it in the to-do list, like in a to-do list of musts. And I don't necessarily mean writing it in a list. It just can be in my head that, okay, today I must do, I don't know, going to the gym gives me joy. So today I must go to the gym. And that's it.
If you look at every human being, they're all making similar decisions. I must do this. Sometimes for certain people is I must sit on the sofa and watch Netflix. I must relax and I must not do any meaningful work. Sometimes it's I must be lazy. But they're always making a choice. They're always prioritizing one thing over the other. Right? They're always prioritizing. If they're sitting simply, they are prioritized to sit simply. So it's a matter of how are we choosing, where is the space that we're coming for when we choose these things for ourselves. And I can see a clear value for you is achievement. For you, you're a high achiever, you want to be achieving something constantly, and that is a very important value for you. And that's where your dialogue and your internal dialogue and everything is coming from. Am I?
You are actually very right.
Yeah.
You are very right. And I always like that. That's the thing my husband always tells me, and I always like resent him when he says that. It's like, for you, the most important thing is achieving something. So, and actually back to the, when I had a baby and we had all this, the regular misunderstanding of all the people who have kids in the beginning. And he was telling me like, you need to start doing something that brings you joy, and that's something that you're going to achieve, because none of this, whatever you're doing right now, is bringing you any joy, because if you didn't achieve anything, it's as good as you haven't done anything. And all this thing that you're doing right now, it doesn't bring you joy because you're not in your head, you're not achieving anything. And he was right. It took me some time to, like the first time you hear this, you're like, no, of course I get joy from, like having the baby and enjoying time with the baby, but there is no actual achievement for me. For many other people there is, but for me, in my head, it's not an achievement. It's just a natural thing that happens to anyone, or like to most of the people. So it's not an achievement. So when there is no achievement, you're right. Like, I don't consider it as something that I did that's useful.
And the sense of achievement, if you realize, is not happening outside us.
No.
It's happening in our minds. It's the meaning that we attach to events, is the meaning that we attach to circumstances, is the meaning that we attach to our own actions that defines what is an achievement and what is not.
From that point of view, what would you advise people that are like me, high achievers, and they will always want to put some meaning into what they're doing? What would you advise them to do? How to, even the small tasks that they are maybe not enjoying doing, or right now they're in the stage of life when they cannot achieve what is in their head is the achievement. What would you advise them to do?
So, firstly, I generally avoid giving advices because the reason is this. The reason I stop myself as much as possible from giving advices specifically for specific situations and scenarios is because I don't have the entire context of somebody else. And when someone is asking a question, they're asking a question from a space where they have built so many things in their head, and they're asking with reference to those. And when I give an advice, and either it would be, oh, I've already tried that, or I've already done that, or it's not working for me. And these kind of resistance will come. So my advice, when it comes from there, then what happens is, and this is generally why I always encourage everyone not to give advice. When we stop giving advice to people, we transform the life of other people around us. We think that giving advice is what will transform their lives, but actually what will really transform is when they find their own solutions, when they discover their own clarity, not because somebody else is telling them that this is what you should do, but because of they answering certain questions, they arrive at their own answers. And the moment they arrive at their own answers, then what happens is they own it. They act upon it. They do what is relevant, and they go forward in life like never before, because nobody's stopping them, because nobody told them to do this. It was their decision, it was their answer, it was what was coming from within them. That being said, I can give you an example of uh, a session that I had, and I was working with a client yesterday. And I asked him, where are you right now in a certain aspect of his life? And he said, I am at step 4. And I asked him, where do you want to be? He said, I want to be at a 9. I said, what does 9 look like? He said, I don't know. So I took him to 9 and I made him stay at 9 in a physical way, where we actually moved from where he was at a 4 and moved to a 9. And then he started describing what could be there, and he was really kind of lost. So I said, okay, let this be here and let's focus on what's at 5. So from a 4 to a 5, what would you have done? And then he started describing from 5 to a 6, what? From 6 to a 7, what? And suddenly he started unpacking. And to answer your question, sometimes we see things so far out that we want to achieve, which is not in our reach or not in our grasp. We want to get there. We don't have all the knowledge. We don't have all the information. And I told him yesterday, imagine you're driving from here to Sharjah airport. When you're starting from Dubai, do you need to see the airport? You don't need to see the airport. You just need to know that that's the direction and which is the road you have to take and what's the first next step that you have to go in that direction. And if you can be on that road and if you can be on that journey, then you'll get there. You don't know yet if there is going to be a detour over there, if there's going to be a roadblock over there, if you have to take some other exit. But as long as you're heading in that direction and if you're going in that direction, and if there is alignment with the people around you and the people in your lives are incongruent with your journey,
And you're going to reach there.
you will achieve what you want.
Achievement. Achievement
Right?
is the...
I want to add one more thing.
yeah.
Is it okay?
Yeah, go
So
ahead.
you were earlier speaking about how when you were saying something and your husband was saying something else and you were not able to accept it. And this is a common problem in relationships that a lot of people face, right? And I believe the core thing that has to move from here is our level of listening, is how we listen to these conversations when someone is speaking to us. How are we receiving it? Usually what happens? It feels like an attack to our values sometimes. It feels like an attack to our way of thinking, our ideologies, and all of those things. And we want to defend them because we hold them so closely to us. Right? But if we look at those difficult conversations as an opportunity to explore their values, we have a deeper understanding of where they're coming from. And perhaps where they're coming from could be a door that we never saw in the past that we want to walk through as well. Or we can show them, after we have seen their door, our door, and say, hey, look at this door. How about this one? We both have to go and walk through and reach on the other side of this house, but there are 5 doors over here. I think this one would be more fun and aligned with us to walk through. It fits right. We don't have to squeeze ourselves through this narrow passage. And it's no fun if you're going through your door and I'm going through my door. We want to be walking both into the same bedroom, right?
It's easier said than done. It's what I find difficult in this.
Why do you say it's easier said than done?
Because in the moment, and that's what I like to ask this all the time. In the moment of when the event is happening, we know it all before the any event is happening. But once the event is there and it's happening and you're in the moment, you're not always able to pull yourself out of the situation and tell yourself, okay, now I just have to listen without interrupting and without thinking that the other person is attacking me. Because that's we're always feeling attacked by especially I think by our spouses or by our partners, because that's the person who knows you the best. So whenever they pinpoint on anything, it's actually, it's home. While when it's stranger will tell you something, you're not going to get affected because it's not somebody that knows you. So it'd be like, okay, you don't even know what you're talking about. But when it's somebody close to you, the person that really knows you well, and when they tell you something, you actually feel attacked because it's the closest person. So in the moment, how do you pull yourself out of the situation and, tell yourself, okay, like now I'm just going to listen and I'm open to whatever the other person has to say. And whatever he has to say, not necessarily mean that he's against me.
You go to the gym, right?
I do.
What is the weight you lift, the heaviest?
Oh, not much. I don't know. 20 is the heaviest.
20?
Yeah.
What if I asked you to lift 50? Crazy, right?
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Yeah. But you can get to 50 one day.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
It's just like slowly get there.
Which means in relationships, it's not about doing the heavy lifting in the moment when that is happening, but exercising that in every small situation possible. Bringing your awareness, bringing to your partner's awareness about the muscle that you're exercising for yourself, and the partner also being on the journey of growth. If when it's just one person on the journey of growth and the other is not, then it feels like you're so far ahead in your journey of personal development and the other person is uh, behind, and then you're like, how do I navigate around this whole space? But when both of you are going through that journey and both of you are growing, both of you are using every opportunity to exercise, build awareness, build better communication, build your strengths, build your values, go from strength to strength, then the relationship reaches a level, because kids are going to go away and they're going to have their own lives. And then it's the two of you. And in that moment, you should have built those muscles that you can lift the 50 easily. It doesn't feel like an effort.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's always 60, there's always 70, there's always new things that will come. You'll become grandparents and you'll have in laws and you'll have other things. And there's always life that is throwing stuff at you. And when you're consciously lifting those weights with awareness, what happens is you're ready for them. Whereas, like you said, if in the moment when it hits you and you're not prepared for it, or you don't know how to pull yourself out of it, it's perhaps because someone's giving you a 50 kg dumbbell and telling you lift it.
In the marriage, right? When one person is growing and another one is not growing. I just had this discussion yesterday and I was saying, I think for a couple to stay together, it's so important that when your spouse even doesn't think they need to grow, you really, if you want to grow with that partner in life, you really need to, pull them and try to make them also involved in this growth and for them also to grow and develop. But how to do it in a non-invasive way, basically, that would be my question. What do you think about it? What do you think?
So in general,
to be done
I
there?
truly believe everybody has their own growth journey. At times when we impose our growth journey on somebody else's, there's no alignment, right? When we see certain things and when we start saying, wow, this is amazing. And this is what we do with our kids usually also, right? We see a good way to do things and we impose that on our children and say, this is how you should do it.
Yeah.
And then what we are essentially doing is we are trying to fix either our husband or our children or our colleagues or our friends. When we start operating from a space where we believe that whoever is in our lives, whether it is our spouse, whether it is our children, whoever that is, that they are born whole, creative, and resourceful, that they have everything within them to operate from a space of full creativity and full resourcefulness and full growth and full potential, then it becomes a natural extension of who they are. It just allows them to expand on their own. Now, when one of the ways that we can actually share with the people our growth journey is to start speaking about our journeys, start sharing the things that we are learning, start sharing about where we want to grow, where we want to expand. And you said something very interesting earlier. It's easier said than done. The fact is, not the saying part, not the doing part. There's something even more difficult than both of these. And do you know what that is? It's called the being part. When you can be a certain way, then the doing becomes easy. So, for example, when you are having a conversation with your husband, and there is a situation where he's saying something that is triggering you, who do you want to be in that moment? What kind of a person do you want to be in that moment?
Decent.
Yeah.
Not to snap and just accept, and being is I think is the most difficult thing to do. It's just to be, I don't know, more accepting and not to feel attacked.
When you say decent, when you say not feeling attacked, when you say, what else did you say?
I don't know, calm also is
You wanna
one
be
of the
calm?
things. Yeah.
But there's something that is being triggered inside you.
Yeah.
What is that trigger? Can you share that?
I don't know. It's different.
It could be different, right?
Yeah. It could be anything.
But if you
Yeah.
can generalize it, what is happening when there is a trigger happening?
Criticize. Yeah. Criticism. It's mainly criticism. I think the one that gets to us.
So another way of saying that is there is no alignment with what you are thinking and what he's saying.
No, I wouldn't say that. Sometimes there is.
There is alignment.
And that's even worse because sometimes the person will mention what you think, but you're not convinced, you're not convinced that it's the right thing to be like this. So you already know there is an issue. And I think that's, for me personally, I think I get triggered much more there than when the person mentions something that I even have an issue. But then when he mentions something that is, I know there is an issue there, and he hits right on the spot, then that triggers me much more.
Now, if you were to convert that trigger into something that is meaningful, helpful, and putting you on the journey of growth, what would you do with that trigger?
I'll try to figure it out. Why is this situation
Yeah,
specifically
but in that
triggering
moment, what
me?
would you do?
Oh, in that moment. I know what I do in that moment, but it's the
What do
wrong
you do?
thing to do. I close
Okay.
totally from the conversation. I just close, or I react, and that's even
So both are not helping.
none of it is helping.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the third door that you could open?
What is it?
What's the third door you could open? Whether you choose to open it or not is entirely up to you. But what is the third door you could open?
I don't know. Just like be open and try to, I don't know, from this from NLP exercise, just to put myself in meta and not to be in the situation, and just to look at it as a third party would look at it.
Okay, so that's the third door. What's the fourth door?
I have no idea. I have no idea. That's the limit. That's it. I can become there as like, I'm in the coaching session and you're not talking to me, you're talking to your wife, but I am not your wife right now. So I can do that, but I don't know, like it's also not very successful most of the times, but I have no idea what is the other option.
So what is your definition of authenticity?
Being real without trying to pretend like anything else, and without trying to being real, not pretending to be something else, and not having any sort of, not being scared to hurt another person with whatever you have to do or say.
And not making anything right or wrong. It's just
There's
being
no
there.
right and wrong.
Right?
Yeah.
Was that possibly a fourth door?
Yeah, no, that's a that's a big problem right there.
Being authentic?
Yeah, because then it's being authentic. Also for me is being honest, I guess. And if I am gonna be honest at every situation, and having kids, you would know that it's like when you're honest when talking to your kids. Also, like you cannot be 100% honest at all the point of times.
Says who?
I feel like sometimes we would say something very hurtful if we were completely honest. And I try to avoid that because sometimes I'm way too honest, and I feel like I should have been less honest than that in the moment. So yeah, authentic self, I don't know. I don't know if I would go that route.
So that is where you're bringing in your operating model of how you were raised sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And it's also in those moments where you're coming from an operating model where if I'm honest, I will be hurtful. Is there an opportunity where you can be honest and not hurtful
Absolutely.
with your children?
Well, Yeah.
100% of the time, if I said you have to be 100% honest and 100% not hurtful, is it a possibility or it's impossible? What is it in your mind right now?
I think with children, it's more possible because you're still trying to preserve their.
With another human being, when you
That's
have to
what
be
that's
one.
what we ideally should be doing, right? As dealing as was.
The question is not whether you are being 100% honest and not hurting. I'm asking, is it possible for a human being to be 100% honest, authentic at all points of time in their life and still do it without hurting others?
I'm not sure.
All right,
Yeah.
what's coming in the way?
I think what's coming in the way, I'm even thinking the kids are the most honest, right, version of us, till they learn how to basically lie and how to navigate life, right? The reason why we all learn how to not be honest is because we're navigating one situation or another. So kids can be quite hurtful, and it's on us not to get hurt by what they're saying. If it's triggering us, that means the issue is in us. But kids can be hurtful and they're quite honest, a bit too honest sometimes, but it is what it is. So that brings so many emotions, right? We're talking about, like, for me, I feel like, yeah, we could be 100% honest, but yes, we're gonna hurt somebody on the way by being completely honest. We can perhaps be 99% of the time honest and not hurtful if hurtful things are not in our vocabulary. But at the same time, that's what we should be aiming for, right? Not to be hurtful. And at the same time, sometimes when the other person is hurt, it's not really that we said something wrong. It's just whatever triggers and experiences and the background that the person has that it's triggering him.
So, one of the things that I've recently, I've been processing this for quite some time, and one of the key skills that we as human beings, while we are growing up, is constantly learning and evolving is how we process information, how we process conversations. So, if you look at the book that I've written over there, The Awesome Cup, that is a story about conversations, about how to have great conversations. And it's about realizing that conversation is a muscle. It's a muscle that we have to constantly exercise to make it stronger. And if we use lying as a way to get out of things, and if we use lying as a way to please people, and if we use lying, and that's a muscle that we will exercise constantly, then that's how we will navigate relationships constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. The only question is it serving you or is it not? And if it's something that is not serving us in the long term, then why are we even executing on it? So, to me, authenticity, the definition of authenticity is when we think, feel, and behave in alignment. When there is an alignment with how we think, how we feel, and how we behave. Now, what's the distinction between thinking and feeling? Is thinking is what happens in our heads. It's logical, it's analytical, it's critical, it's all of that. Feeling is what's going on in our bodies. It's our body, which means our subconscious mind, which is feeding information to us that, this is right, this is wrong, this is not the way it should be doing. There's something happening over here. Listening to that as well. Taking that as a feedback and then seeing if there's something that needs to be navigated around over here. The moment we are able to express ourselves with a sense of detachment of whether it is hurtful or not, but at the same time doing it from a space of authenticity, doing it from a space of serving, doing it from a space of love and compassion for ourselves and for the person who is in front of us, and helping them navigate through their responses. Because after we say, if we have the awareness to pick on what they're feeling and help them process that, because you said earlier, if somebody else was saying this to me, I wouldn't be hurt. When my family is saying, I get hurt. So, what is happening over there? What's really happening along in our journeys is with our families, We're carrying that backpack and we're keeping on stuffing things over there as we go along in the relationship. You know? And then we pick on past experiences and past ways of doing things and we attach it to that. Oh, he did this because of that. And that means that he is like this. And we build correlations over there. But if we are able to unpack all of that and we say, I want to explore a new way of being. So one of the most beautiful things that I've come across in my life when it comes to in terms of how we look at, how we process information is this. There are things that happen to us. There are things that happen to us. And then there is the meaning that we attach to things that happen to us. And these two are two separate things. And the moment we are able to separate the two and look at the two in isolation, we are able to deal with them better. So the child said something and it triggered something. What they said is not is the problem, the trigger is the problem. And when we realize where the trigger is coming from, it becomes our opportunity for personal growth. And we can always use the opportunity to see how, for example, we just did over here. You said confusion, and I said, can you reframe it? So that's you processing your internal dialogue in a different way that is serving you. If you kept saying, I'm always in a state of confusion when something like this happened, whereas you said, it's clarity. Then suddenly you shift in how you operate, in how you use your language, in how you see things, in how you see events, and that improves the quality of your life. So what I always say is when you improve the quality of your conversation, not just with those around you, but also within yourself, you improve the quality of your life.
That's the most important one, the conversation with ourselves than with others. And I think that's, if we work on this, then everything else kind of falls into place. Because I think even when we speak to our kids, we speak to them with the same tone of the voice that we speak to ourselves and to our partners, and then it just extends to everyone around us. I refuse to believe that the person who really talks like nicely to themselves internally, they can go out and, just be not nice to everyone else around them. That's usually like the issue lies in a person that's he didn't solve some issues with himself, and that's why the conversation that gets out is also bad. If we are content with ourselves. I think what you said is very important. Separating how we react to what actually really happens to us. I think that's a very important skill to have. And I'm going to ask you next. How do you separate it? How do you separate it, you personally, when it happens? Because I'm sure you're exercising the muscle.
Yeah.
How do you personally do it? I want to know your thought process when something like this happens, and how do you process it?
So how I process it is this. First and foremost, what I do is I come from a space of love and compassion for myself and for the other person. Secondly, what I accept is all emotions are beautiful. All emotions are beautiful, and all emotions help us grow. It helps us expand ourselves. And therefore, each emotion comes into our life for a reason. It's to either teach us, to experience something, to help us go into territories within our own minds that we have not tapped into earlier. So it's an opportunity for me to go into those areas. And what I do is I bring the awareness to myself that all these emotions are not coming to me, it is coming through me, for me, and to be released through me. It has to go out, it doesn't have to stay in. Because the moment you allow negative energy to stay in, it manifests as diseases, it manifests as problems, and it manifests as situations within our internal organs that sits and resides and releases chemicals that we really don't want. So one way I do it is I process it. I process my thinking with a coach, with someone who is a close friend, with someone who is able to actually allow me to process the situation a little more in an expansive manner. And if it is with my partner, then I have that conversation with the partner and I explain and explore and see where this is coming from for me and unpack it. Conversation is the way to look at it. Now, how do you separate it? First and foremost, it's very easy. It's very easy. Just perhaps write down or think about what really happened. What are you seeing? If it is a person, what did he do? What did she do? What did he say? What did she say? Unpack it with detachment, not connecting it to you. It could have been said to anyone. That is what was said.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what am I feeling? Where is my feeling coming from? Why am I getting triggered? Okay, they did this in the past, or they said this in the past, and this is how they behaved, or this is reflecting their value systems, or this is not in congruence with my value systems. So, how can I deal with that? What can I say? What can I do? What is it? And I'm not saying it's always easy for me. There are times where it is very challenging. Sometimes I have to go through it for 2, 3, 4 days, maybe. But that is the journey. I accept it, I embrace it. I realize that is the way for me to unpack myself and my thinking and my processing. It is what I go through that I grow through, right? So the moment I realize that this is a journey of growth for me, where I have to do certain things that I don't enjoy right now, that also is an opportunity for me to reflect and ask, what's happening here in this moment? What's happening here in this situation or in this scenario that is making me feel like this? If you ask most people about what are you feeling, they
Mm-hmm.
will go to 4 or 5 feelings. I'm feeling happy, sad, emotional, distress. But if you go and check out on, you would know this, the emotion wheel. There's
Yeah.
like 50, 60 emotions out there. And then suddenly you look at all those emotions, you're like, wow, this is an expansion of the happiness emotion, which can be expanded into so many other emotions. And then you start unpacking. It's really about unpacking. And that's what coaching and conversations really does for people. You start unpacking how you look at your inner world. You start unpacking what are you carrying? What is it that you're holding on? What is it that you're keeping that is not serving you? What is it that you have to stretch into? I love this beautiful analogy of, that I heard 2 days back about the piano.
Yeah.
You're playing the piano, and you're playing the piano like this. Ting, 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 whatever you're playing over here. And it's not as much as fun. And if you started playing the keys on this end or this end and then bring it back over here, right? We are most of the time stuck in this zone in our lives. We are not stretching and playing the keys from different bands and different keys of our life, different strings of our life, different things that would actually stretch us and help us grow. And only when you start playing keys across the piano that we start seeing our life will become more beautiful, uh, more creative, more lively, and more all of that. And this is how children operate, you see.
Yeah.
When children uh, start the journey in life, they want to go all over the place. And we as parents say, no, stay here,
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
this, because we can't manage this all the time. This is too stressful to be managing what's outside the boundaries that we see for them. So, because it's convenient for us, we box them.
Yeah.
We tell them, just be here, just do this. One of the biggest gifts I believe that we can give another human being, one of the true biggest gift that we can give is believing in them, accepting them as they are, and allowing them to be on their journey the way they are. It's very difficult sometimes to do, but the moment we embrace that, the moment we accept that, the moment we allow them to shine in their own way, in their own style, in the way that is meaningful for them, whether it is a child, whether it is a spouse, whether it is a student in a school, you would see they will start shining when they start recognizing this is me. And this is my definition of what usually is, um, you go from 0 to 10, you're listening to your parents. 10 to 20, again, your friends and parents are telling you what you should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Then after that, after 20s, you get into a job and you're listening to what your boss is telling you and you're doing that. And then you get married and then you're listening to what your spouse is telling you. And then you reach around 40, 50, you have kids and you're listening to the kids. And then around 45, 50, you're thinking, where the hell am I in this picture? right? What am I doing for myself? And that's what I call the midlife crisis usually, where
Yeah.
you wake up to yourself. And the moment you wake up to yourself and the moment you start prioritizing yourself, it's a beautiful journey. And if we can empower our children at a very early age to make their own decisions, to make mistakes and learn from them and grow from them and, accept them as they are, and help them identify their strengths and let them explore the keys
Mm-hmm.
that they are able to stretch and reach and play.
How do you raise your kids? How do you do that? How old are the kids?
So the kids are 14 and 10. They're back in
Wow.
India,
Wow.
and we have been separated. They're back there. So when it comes to how I raise my kids, it's about allowing them to experience life, whatever the challenges are there, and I always try to make sure that I'm holding myself back with advices. There's a author called Michael Bungay Steiner, and he's written a book where he talks about the advice trap, and he calls it, we're all advice giving monsters.
Yeah.
We're always giving advices to others, and we always want to fix others, and we always want to suggest things to others. And the moment we are able to hold ourselves back, I came across a gentleman whose name is Omar, whose daughter I had interviewed. Of all the people that I've interviewed, she was one of the most impressive ones. She was 7 at the time of me interviewing her. And the kind of awareness that she has, what I realized was it was about how he was asking questions and how he was raising with questions. And always, what questions does to people is this: it makes them exercise their thinking. Questions is the door to our thinking.
Mm-hmm.
When you ask me a question and I have to give a response, I have to exercise my thinking. If it is a good question, if it's a powerful question, I have to access my subconscious mind, my intuition, my curiosity, my exploration, my creativity, all of that when it's a powerful question. If it's just a yes or no question, if it's just a question, it just comes from a level of awareness and consciousness. So, the opportunity for us as individuals when we are looking to create transformation in other people's lives is to ask powerful questions. And powerful questions means it's powerful for them, not for you.
Yeah.
Meaning there is an opportunity for them to process their way of thinking. So when it comes to my kids, we play the role. So there are parents who have come and asked me, Samir, can I be a coach to my child? And the answer is you can. You just have to bring your awareness to the child and explain to them that there are different hats that you will wear at different times.
Mm-hmm.
And this we can do in every relationship, even in an organization. What we can do is we can say, now I'm wearing the manager hat, now I'm wearing the coaching hat, now I'm wearing the mentoring hat. And if I were to speak to you as a mentor, this is what I would do. If I were to speak to you as a friend, this is what I would do. When you're speaking to a spouse, you can say, I can speak from a coaching hat because you are a coach. You can say, I'm putting on my coaching hat, and this is what I would say as a coach. As a wife, this is what I would say. As a friend, this is what I would say. And it can be the same, it can be different things. And that's okay. Because we all have different muscles that we can exercise when we wear on different hats.
We maybe subconsciously do that, but we don't do it enough. And I think when you actually inform the other person and you tell them how you're going to approach the situation, from which point of view you're going to approach the situation, that also gives the other person clarity of what you are saying is not necessarily personal at this point of time, or this is, like more from a third party point of view rather than from a spouse point of view.
And what's the opportunity in this for you when you do that?
To explore the other person, to actually know what the other person is thinking of without them expecting us to judge them, right? It's from non-judgmental, it comes from a non-judgmental place, which is quite rare, I think, that we are able to not judge. And as much as we aim for it, it's quite difficult. But when you put it this way, it gives you the opportunity to actually not judge. Because if you would approach every situation as a coach, every situation in life as a coach, and whenever you would have any interactions with anyone as a coach, then you wouldn't judge. Because once the judgment comes in, you have some sort of agenda towards the person. And
very true.
Without, as a coach, you don't have any agenda except to help the person to be their best self. So if we approached everyone as a coach, then we wouldn't have this judgmental mentality, and we would be much more accepting, we would give them so much more space.
But at the same time, we also have to have relationship where there is an agenda also, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So there will be an agenda when it comes to our spouse. There will be an agenda when it comes to our children. There will be an agenda. There's always an agenda where we want them to see succeed. But it's the approach that we take and how we do it and how we get there. And the important piece, like you said earlier, is to bring clarity to the whole relationship, not during the situation, but well in advance.
Yeah.
To create an agreement and prepare for these situations before it happens.
And that would apply for any kind of relationship. I think it's kids and parents, it's spouse, it's friendships, it's even business partners. It's working with somebody and being somebody's business partner. You need to really, really know the person. And you need to have this sort of this kind of clarity with the person to be able to proceed to be a business partner with them. Because if you don't have the clear understanding, but with business partners, we're more of we have some agreement into place. We kind of discuss majority of things, but still, when there are differences in values, even in business, that affects the business so much. We don't even expect that to affect it. While you feel like, oh, we are two different people with two different values. Why would I need to know so much details about this person? While you really need to know this much details about the person, about your business partner as well, about your spouse, about friends, about, your surrounding, because what they do also affects us, and how they do things also will affect our relationship, whatever the relationship is. So knowing the person, exploring the person, I don't believe that coaching is only for coaches. And the clarity that you're talking about, and conversation, having the quality conversation with the person is so important. And it's important in anything. We really need to get to know everyone we're dealing with, even when we think that it's not important. A client, somebody we're buying from, we need to get to know them. If this is an important person in our journey, somebody who works for you, you need to get to know them. So I find it being an important part of. I like to chat with people. I like to talk to people. Obviously, I think I love chatting with people. I like to know them closer, to know more details about how they are, the way they think. And I feel like that's, it is important, because then I will know how to deal with them, and I would know what is important for them, and how would they act in certain situations. And when they do some certain things, I know where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Which gives me, again, ability not to judge them at this point of time, because then I know where they're coming from. Because when you don't know where the person is coming from, it could be like a nonsense for you. So, but when you know where the person is coming from, that's where it gives you the ability to judge less, or not to judge at all, and to accept them, and to just accept that this is another person with another journey, with another everything, and he doesn't necessarily see what I see. We cannot see the same, because that's not what we have.
Yeah.
The background we had is not the same.
Do you believe in energy? You do a lot of energy work, or do you do?
Okay, so I have mixed feelings about energy. And I'm going to say that because I'm not necessarily all pro energy healing. It's unexplored area of, healing for me. But I do believe in energies. And I do believe that I trust myself when I feel somebody's energy.
Do you believe that words carry energy?
I think so. Yeah.
So when you say judging a person,
yeah,
what kind of an energy is there? Is it a high energy? Is it low energy?
I think it's a low energy.
All
yeah.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said,
Is it? No?
No, it's for you, right?
Yeah.
It's how you
I think it's a
how it is.
negative thing. For me, I think it's a negative thing. And then that's something that I work on a lot, even on a daily basis, that I try not to judge, because I know that's something that I've been working on and trying not to judge rather than judge.
So if you are not judging, what would you do rather?
Accepting.
Okay. So this is just for everyone who's listening over here.
Yeah.
I did not tell you what is a high energy or a low energy in words. You picked it up and you said, this is a low energy word. And then you found a replacement for that as well. And what I really want to, really get out there is we all know what's the low energy word that we constantly use in our lives. We just have to bring our awareness to it. And then we cannot just remove it without substituting it with something else. We have to replace that with something else that is of a higher energy. And the moment we are able to do that in our conversations, in how we process information, in how we communicate with our children, in the questions that we ask, in the way that we phrase our questions, we will bring the energy of the relationship higher when the words that we are using have words that vibrate at a higher level. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. It's
It's a lot of work.
It's so much awareness. It's so much awareness. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work because we have to be so aware of what we're saying, how we're saying it, when we're saying it. And I agree with the concept of you cannot just remove one thing out of your life and not replace it with something else. And that's coming from like so many. I think it can apply to many things as well. Like it's not just for words. It's any emotion, even the negative one, and even the emotions that we feel, and we don't want to have this emotion in our life, and we want to express it. We need to either express it in one way or another, but we will eventually have to express it. So if we try to think of ourselves like, I'm gonna be this, light and amazing person, and I'm not gonna have any bad and negative emotions, that's not gonna happen, because like you're gonna blow up somewhere else. So it needs to, all these emotions are there.
Why does the blowing up happen?
When it's like a bottle, right? You just
when you're holding too much and you're not releasing it.
Yeah. When you don't release it, it just bottles up and then it blows up into, disaster.
So why bottle it up in the first place? Why? So like I said, you just release it as it comes and realize that it flows through you and it's not for you to hold it back.
Here, I find a challenge in lots of people when you tell them, release your emotions, right? You're feeling angry, be angry. You're feeling this, be this. You're feeling happy, be happy. And this is great in essence. But what I would want to emphasize on, that you can have this anger, and being angry doesn't mean that you have to release it on the person in front of you. You don't have to do it towards something that you feel angry about. You can just go, work out and, I don't know,
break some stuff,
smash some things. And there are many ways of releasing anger. And it doesn't have to be, I felt angry and now I'm working on, releasing all my emotions, so now I'm going to be angry at you. But that's not what we mean, right? That's not what we mean here. We mean here that, okay, you can feel all those emotions, but there are multiple ways of releasing each and every one of them. It doesn't necessarily have to be, directed to the problem and the situation in hand.
It's great that you brought it up about how to release our emotions. When I said release the emotions, I did not mean if anger is coming to you, release anger, whether it is to the person or to anything. It was about release our attachment to the meaning that we are giving to the situation. Because anger is created not because of the event, but because of the meaning that we have attached to this event. And what we are releasing is our attachment to the meaning.
Elaborate on that and give us some example. I know what you're saying. I understand it, but
yeah,
let's simplify it.
So simplifying, let's say, for example, you're going out of the house. You're going out of the house, and give me an example of somewhere where you got recently angry.
I don't know. Usually when I'm driving.
Okay.
I'm driving and somebody just,
Cuts you on the way, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Does it happen all the time that you get angry, or sometimes you get angry?
Sometimes I get angry. No, most of the time I get angry.
Most of the
Yeah,
time you get angry.
let's be honest here. Most of the time I get angry.
All right. But there is a certain percentage of the time that you're not angry.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I know why, because I am not angry at that day at all. And this is just a minor thing. Or I woke up and I tell myself today, no matter what happens, I'm not going to be triggered and I'm not going to get angry.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good day, and I'm not going to let myself get, affected by stuff that's happening around me.
So imagine somebody standing with a cup of coffee, and then you walk past and you bump into his hand, and coffee spills on the floor. Why did the coffee spill on the floor?
Because the cup was full.
Okay.
That's
Any
the
other
same.
reason?
Yeah. The fraction, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other reason? So one reason is because the cup had coffee.
Yeah, obvious one.
If it had orange juice, that is what would have spilled out. If it had water, that is what would have spilled out. So when you're driving on the road, anger is already there. It's not because somebody cut that you brought out your anger. It just was spilling out because that's what was already bottled in some form. It was locked in over there because of certain other things that was not going right that day. But perhaps you woke up that day and so many things went right, and you were holding a sense of peace and calm, and you were feeling a sense of lightness, and you're probably going to meet a client and you're really happy that something worked out, you're on your way back, and somebody cut, he's having a bad day, that's fine, let him go forward, and you start becoming generous. And so the idea is this: when we are releasing our attachment to events and saying, nobody's supposed to cut me on the road.
Yeah.
Nobody's supposed to drive in front of me. Nobody's supposed to come. I can do it, but nobody should do it to me. Right? We have to change lanes. Do we drive only on a single lane all our lives? When you're on the road, we change. So imagine how many people in our lives might have been frustrated because of us. So what happens is you build in all those energy that if you bring in for other people, it's also coming to you in some other way and some other form. So releasing is not about releasing the energy, but it's about releasing our attachments that we have created that is not serving us. If it is serving us, great. If it is not, why choose it? We are choosing this meaning. Nobody's imposing this meaning on us. Nobody's telling us you have to feel this way. They are behaving in a certain manner, and then we are choosing how to respond to it. We are choosing the meaning to it. We are choosing everything in our lives. When we say we don't have a choice, that's also what we are choosing.
Not to do anything about it.
The fatalist, where we are saying, I'm helpless. That's what we are choosing. I don't have money, so I can't do anything. We're choosing. And some people, they change the meaning and say, I'll do something about it. That's what happens in a family, right? Raised by the same parents, but different children come out with different meanings that they've attached to the way they were raised, the way they went to school, and the way the teachers responded to them. Different outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
Not every classmate of Bill Gates is a billionaire. Not every classmate of Elon Musk is a billionaire. Why? Why not? They were all taught by the same teachers. They all had the same progression, but how he looks at failures, how he looks at events, and how he responds to situations is unique to him. So the choice over here for each one of us and anyone who is listening over here is this, to bring our awareness to ourselves and to accept people as they are. And I want to touch upon this. You want to touch upon the book?
Yes, I would like to know.
This book is kind of related to. So I wrote this book for my children. So when just before COVID was happening, and at that point of time,
the Awesome Cup.
the Awesome Cup.
Yeah.
I realize my life on this world is limited. I do not know when I will die. I could be gone the next day, just like that. But I've learned a lot of things during my life. and I've come across so many different philosophies and so many different ways of being, etc. And I wanted to capture this and keep this for my children. Not to tell them today that this is the message for you, but to have it there so that whenever they are ready to receive it, it is there. And the moment that sense of urgency stepped in for me, it took me just 30 days to write the book. I was contemplating and thinking about writing a book for like almost 17, 18 years. But when this meaning that I attached to the exercise of writing hit me, it pushed me in a way like nothing ever before. It made me step into action that is meaningful and purposeful. And the book is about conversations. The book, so imagine this. It says awesome cup, right? So this is, let's say, a cup, and it's filled. It's filled with water. And you want to pour something over it. What happens?
Overflows.
It overflows. And if you want to fill it with something first, what do you have to do?
Empty it.
You have to empty it. Now imagine this is the mind of somebody else. It's already filled with their own ideas. How do you empty somebody's mind?
I don't even have wild guess.
So, if you're telling them what to do, you're filling their cup. And it's already full with their own ideas, with their own values, with their own experiences.
I know where you're going.
So what
Ask
do you do?
questions.
So when you ask, you empty.
Yeah.
You ask, you empty their minds. And the more you empty their minds, the more they're creating space for them to receive. And if you ask good questions, you access not only their conscious mind, you also access their subconscious mind. And you also understand where they're operating from. And the more you empty, the more they start holding a space where they reach a point where they will tell you, please tell me, what should I do?
Mm-hmm.
If everything that I'm telling you is not the way to do things, and if you're seeing there is a better opportunity, and then you say, I will share something with you, see if you want to hold it, or you can bring back everything that you poured out and put back in and decide what you want to hold in your cup, which means you're not attaching yourself to what they hold in their cup. It's their mind, it's their cup, it's what they're drinking.
Yeah.
So it's their choice. Why are we so concerned about what they're drinking? We feel like, oh, if they're going to live with us, if they're going to be with us, if we are raising them, if we are supporting them, then they should drink what we offer. Because our drink is the best drink. What we have, there's nothing better than that. And when we come from that space, we are not coming from a space of curiosity. We are not coming from a space of exploration. We are not coming from a space of growth and transformation and possibilities. We are only trying to recreate prototypes of ourselves. We are trying to make more of us in other people.
Minions.
Minions.
So, awesome cup and awesome planner.
Yeah.
So you created a planner.
Yeah. So the awesome cup is the story of 5 friends who come together for a reunion after 20 years. And then they're spending 2 days having conversations and learning about the art of conversations from one of the characters who is a coach.
Okay.
So that's awesome cup. And the planner is a goal setting planner for 100 days. So this one was something that I created during my early days in coaching. I was doing a program and I had to come up with a toolkit for
the student,
for the students, for the participants.
for students, yeah.
And that's when the whole genesis of this came. And then it's just a tool that allows people to really dive deep. There is a workshop that comes along with it, which actually makes them reflect, go deep. The goal setting process, writing goals is probably, the designing part of the goals is probably the most challenging part. The moment we get that piece sorted, the doing part becomes more easy.
Yeah, I agree with that, because that's something that I do with myself. I don't necessarily use any planner. I just write what I started recently doing every beginning of the year. I write the goals for the year. And then I go back a few times a year to check if I'm still keeping up with it, or if this is still something that I want to do, or there's something else happened in the year. Maybe I already achieved it and there's something new that I want to achieve. So I just keep updating that. but I do write them in the beginning of the year, and it gives me much more clearer picture on what is it that I want to do. Because every end of the year I feel like, oh, I've wasted, another year is wasted. So not to have this feeling, and then that's back to why I always want to achieve something. When not to have this feeling, I just create this, like a set of goals which I know I want to achieve by the end of this year. And some of them happen, some of them change into something else. And then, like at least I have this kind of like a agenda, what's going to happen in the year or what I want to have in this year. So by end of the year, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
here we go.
Tick the boxes.
Tick the boxes and then feel happy about it and have a little bit of dopamine rise of the ticking the boxes of the things that I've done. But it also just, it clears your brain basically.
Yeah.
Right on what you want to do, and is it something that you really want to do? Because if you didn't write it down, most probably it's not what you want to do.
Yeah. Which is one of the reasons why I made it into a book. People ask me, why didn't you make it into an app?
Yeah.
And I find the writing process actually unlocks certain things that the typing usually does not so much. But I don't know. It's possible also. It's really the thinking part where... So somebody gave a beautiful analogy to the book. He said, Samir, this book can be a doing tool.
Yeah.
But it can also be a being tool. You just have to be with the book. You have to just open the book and you have to explore the pages and you have to see what's in each one. And then you have to just think and be with the what's showing up on that page and then experience that in your minds. And if you do that effectively, then what will happen is you'll see transformation by the end of whatever time you choose for yourself to reflect the next time.
What I found incredible was like coaching and NLP, because I've done it before for me, and that's how I wanted to learn more about it, and I studied it. But the goals that we set for ourselves, let's say, and we say like in 5 years I'm going to do that, in 10 years I'm going to do that. Miraculously, it happens much faster.
Yeah.
It happens much faster than you planned it. And that's what I like about setting goals, because I know I'm setting goals to achieve something by end of the year, but I know that it might happen much faster than that. And that's why I go back to it and I look at it and I, revisit it and think about, okay, what's next? Because, it's just been 6 months. We're in June now, yeah. It's been 6 months and I've already achieved all this, so I need something else. And I need some like new things to do. So I think with the coaching, with this setting goals and planning things, they actually happen faster than you expect.
Yeah.
If you really work towards it, obviously, if you sit and do nothing, nothing's going to happen. It's not like a, miracle that stuff just happens for you. But if you also attach doing to planning, it all works out.
And in the planning piece, so for example, when you say, just to take a random number out of the head and say, I want to make $1 million. Do you just write, I want to make $1 million, or do you go behind the thought process of how you arrived at that number? What do you do? Just as an example.
I usually write how I want to get there.
Yeah.
Because I usually, if we're talking about money as an example, I write how much I want to make out of this part of the business, let's say, and from this part of the business or whatever, like if it's money, how much I want to make here, how much I want to make there, how much money is going to come from this. So I usually attach it to something that actually can bring money, not just like, okay, I want $1 million from just going to fall down from the skies.
Do you set similar kind of goals when it comes to your role as a mother, your role as a wife?
I actually do.
You have?
I actually do, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So you would have actually things that you should have done by the time? Or how do you measure yourself in that scale?
So for me, it was like for this year, we're talking about this year specifically, I put to spend more quality time together as a family and like together separately with kids and then separately with the spouse. And I had it blocked and I had it like, this is a goal for a year.
That is a how part, right? That is a how part.
Well,
what is it you're achieving as a result of that?
I don't know. I'm achieving probably, if we're at it, I'm achieving what I think is to be a good mom.
Okay.
Not necessarily that's being a good mom for somebody else.
Yeah, for you.
But for me, that's where I'm achieving being a good mom, and that's when I know that I've done enough with my kids. And for my kids, it's totally different story. But like with my kids, I've done enough, and that gives me a sense of achievement as well. Plus, I know that their cups are filled because it's important. Like, they are little humans that we're responsible for. So it needs to be, they need to also get enough of us because that's how they grow. Till a certain age, I think then the interaction gets less and less and less. Thank you so much. I think it was that's the right comment. I think it was like a coaching session for me. There was a lot of things that I took, and that's what I love about podcasts and about meeting other coaches, because it's always something that I personally take for myself. And I think it's important also for other people to see how it works, and how this thought process of even asking questions is working. And if I take this much for myself, I can imagine like how important it is for other people also to whatever we're discussing, because it seems like everybody knows that. Once you know it, you feel like, oh, that's like, I knew that, like it's somewhere in your head, but you don't know it until you actually address it and you know it.
Yeah. So what's the one thing you're taking the biggest out of this conversation?
For me is actually the biggest thing, that the biggest aha moment was not attaching situations, not attaching my own feelings to the situations. That was the biggest thing that I'm going to take away from here. And I'm going to actually practice and work on it and look at the situation as just a situation. And whatever I'm feeling is something that I need to address rather than something that's related to the situation.
It is impossible for us not to attach a meaning to any situation. We will always attach meanings. It is impossible for us not to attach meanings. We are what we call meaning making machines.
Yeah.
Now we are constantly attaching meaning. The goal or the opportunity here is to attach meanings that serves us and the other party if possible, but mostly to attach meanings that is serving us, not draining us. So to be conscious and mindful about what is the meaning we are attaching, why are we attaching, and there are certain times where certain relationships are not meant to be, and certain situations where you have to be angry, and there are certain situations where the right thing to do is express yourself in an authentic manner where you're not in alignment with what is happening. So we are not attacking the person, we are attacking the event or the situation. And the moment we are able to distinguish the two and say, I'm not saying you are wrong, I'm saying what you did is wrong, there is a different kind of an energy that is created in that conversation. And I want to address this aspect of what is happening over here. So feelings is our gateway into accessing much more than our thoughts. It's our access to the subconscious mind. It's our access to realizing our sense of intuition that is within us, that is a God-given gift that each one of us have hold us, that protects us. And when we access that, and when we step into that, and when we operate from that space, and when we do it from a space to serve ourselves, and at the same time operate not from a space of limitation, but of higher awareness, which is love, compassion, and looking at the whole of humanity as a realm of possibilities where so many things can happen, and it's not just this child that you're raising, but you're raising a human being that's going to impact the whole of humanity possibly. Then the way you look at the child is very different than you look at it as it's my minion and it's my child and it's my clay that I'm going to mold and I'm going to build into something that is beautiful and nice and lovely and pretty and all of that stuff. But to see that as a sense of ownership, like Khalil Gibran said, right? Your children are not your children, they're the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself.
Yeah.
So though they come through you, yet they belong not to you. It's beautiful statements where you realize suddenly that when we have things with us,
Yeah.
and we take a sense of responsibility of how we use that power and we use those resources that have been given to us, and we know that one day we are responsible to answer to someone or something or some superior power or whatever that is, but When you come and operate from that space, then we don't listen to things just for our own benefit, for our own selfish reasons, but for something far beyond us.
Yeah, when you mentioned that, we were talking about authenticity as well, and that's was something another thing that I feel like we shouldn't be scared to be authentic, because sometimes that's the best thing to do. That's
Sometimes.
the best. All 99% of the time. I'm gonna leave this 1% for me. Sometimes, or most of the time, that's the thing that is going to work, make things work the best. Maybe that's what we should be aiming for, rather than, trying to please everyone around us.
I agree. And I feel a lot of diseases are increasing these days. One reason is probably inauthenticity in hospitals. Diseases, number one. If you look at Dubai as a community, as a culture, I feel there is a lot of inauthenticity in how people show up sometimes at work, on social media, and all of that.
Yeah.
And it brings to themselves mental health problems and issues, and they feel they're not validated and they're not happy, and all of those things, which creates other subsequent problems down the road. So the opportunity is for us to exercise the right kind of muscles and to keep being in awareness how we are operating. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.